So welcome everyone. I appreciate you joining us. My name is Stephanie Wolf and I am the Membership Relations Coordinator here at Population Connection. It's great to see so many familiar names and an extra warm welcome to anyone joining us for our Global Partner Series for the first time. Today, we're marking International Youth Day with one of our newest partners, the African Education Program. On the call, we are joined by the org's Executive Director, Julianne Savarit-Cosenza. Julianne co-founded AEP in 2004 and has spent a decade supporting their Learning and Leadership Center. She holds a degree in international relations and worked as a communications associate before transitioning to lead AEP full-time. In addition, we'll hear from Lumuno Mweemba Chongo, the organization's Director of Programs. Lulu oversees the organization's Amos Youth Centre and is inspired daily by witnessing how these programs and scholarships shape the young minds that she gets to work with. Now, if you have any questions for our speakers, please drop them in the Q&A box. We will do our very best to get these questions answered during the Q&A session. And for any questions we don't have time to answer, we will provide written answers along with a recording of this presentation, the presentation slides, and access to the chat box discussion. All right, now that is all the housekeeping items from me. I will go ahead and send it over to you, Julianne.
Great, thank you so much, Stephanie. And there we go, just getting my slides ready. Thank you so much, Stephanie, Hannah, Population Connection, for having us today, and happy International Youth Day, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you for making the time for being with us. I guess we've already been introed, but my name's Julianne, and I'm really excited to have my colleague, Lumuno, I call her Lulu, on with me. Lulu, you want to say hi before we dive in?
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Happy International Youth Day. My name is Lumuno Mweemba Chongo, and I am the African Education Programs Advisor and the co-founder and director of programs at Amos Youth Centre in Kafue, Zambia. So, Stephanie, thank you for pronouncing my name. That was pretty good. I think even better than Julianne.
I think so too. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. So over to you, Julianne.
Thanks. So today, it's International Youth Day, and we're really going to be celebrating youth leaders and looking at a story of community-led change in Kafue, Zambia, where Lulu's calling from. First, we're going to take a look at our roots and the beginnings of this 20-year journey that the African Education Program has been on. Then we're going to look at today, where we're at with our flagship Learning and Leadership Center, which is called the Amos Youth Centre. And then we're going to take a deeper dive, a closer look at our Reproductive Health Access Initiative. And I'm looking forward to your questions. Please ping them in, and after the presentation, we'll be really happy to answer those. So looking at our roots, we're coming up on our 20-year anniversary, which feels really crazy. In 2004 is when we founded the African Education Program with a few friends. I'm one of the co-founders. When we were in high school, here's our first newspaper clipping when I had a lot more hair at the time. And, we decided to create an organization to serve our peers living in under-resourced communities affected by HIV/AIDS in Zambia. And the reason for Zambia is we actually had personal connection to that community. Our soccer coach's brother at the time was a community leader there. So there was that personal connection we were looking for. Also, we wanted to offset waste that we were seeing in our schools and community. We were seeing really gently used books and computers going right in the trash after a couple of years, and so decided that they could be, recycled if we shipped them over to this community that had much less resource in their schools. So this picture was actually taken a few weeks before our high school graduation. Those are all the boxes, heading to that container to then ship over to Zambia. Before I go any further, just a little bit about Zambia. Just to give you a little background. So in Zambia, 95% of 15-year-olds do not reach international proficiency levels in reading and math. I know we're going to talk about health, but the African education program, education's in our name, so we always start with an education lens. And then because of our holistic approach, that's why we're going to get into health a little later. When you look at Zambia, there's a lot of limited access to basic necessities. So nearly 60% of children are living in poor households. 45% of the population is living in extreme poverty. 48% of Zambians, excuse me, do not meet their minimum calorie requirement. Actually, 35% of children are stunted due to malnutrition. A little bit on menstrual health, and we'll talk more about this later again, but 82% of women are not able to obtain modern feminine hygiene products. So they're using, rags or cow dung in some instances when they're having their period. Zambia is also a very, very young country. So 66% of the population is under the age of 25. Then when you look at education and the youth, only 28% of students will reach 12th grade, and only about half of students even start high school, despite there being free education in the country. And also only half of children with disabilities will ever access a school. Only 64% of youth are literate. So those that are really lucky enough to be going to school, they're still facing under-resourced schools where teachers are relying on rote memory, teaching to the test. Creativity and critical thinking is really stifled. And most students only attend school half the day because of the shifts that the schools have to do to fit all the kids in, essentially, to give them access to the classroom. So that's a little bit about what's going on in Zambia. How did we go from just shipping a container to, we're almost 20 years later, is we were very fortunate to receive a grant that enabled, the co-founders to travel and meet the community and meet our peers. I turned 18 on this trip, and it was in speaking with our peers that they shared with us that, if the books and computers were distributed to the schools, they would never have access to them because the books and computers were too valuable. So they would just get locked up. So they said, why don't you open a youth center so that all the books and computers can go in one place, and so that before and after school, we can have a safe space to access them and to hang out and to do our homework together and to study together. So that is what we did in 2006 with other community leaders, with other volunteers. We opened what we call our flagship learning and leadership center called the Amos Youth Centre. Amos is actually the name of our soccer coach's brother. We had met him on our first trip. He's the one who took care of us. And unfortunately, he passed away of AIDS-related complications, 6 months after we met him. And that is why we named the center in his name, because he was a part of that, founding idea and really had a vision for this community. So today, nearly 20 years after our founding, our mission is to unlock the potential of African youth and adults by building and growing these community-led organizations. These organizations lead local transformation through quality education, health, and community development initiatives. And what we found is we've developed this really unique model for partnering with community leaders, with youth to drive transformation. Yeah, that's what we do. And so today, looking at our flagship Learning and Leadership Center, what is so beautiful, and I think one of the things I'm most proud of, is that Amos Youth Centre today is community-led and community-operated. So I know I'm the one who's opening this presentation. You're probably asking, like, why are you still doing the presentation? And that's why I'm excited. I have Lulu, taking over very soon to talk about the day-to-day work. This center is now, the majority of the team are actually alumni who have come back after their further studies to spearhead the work. So 11 of our 13-member full-time member team at the center are alumni. Lulu and just one other colleague are not alumni. The programs are really informed by the children, the youth, and the women that they're serving. We have a strong focus on learning and adaptation so that we can have greater impact. Lulu's going to touch on that a little later in the presentation. The majority of the board members of the board of directors are Zambian. I'm actually the only non-Zambian that's on the board of the center, and we really focus on good governance and accountability. And the last piece is a focus on Zambian support, Zambian resource mobilization and income generation so that the center can become less and less international donor dependent. And what really makes this center unique is that we will invest in our children and young women and men for over a decade. You know, we start as early as the age of 5 and we follow them all the way through college and university, and then have an alumni program for when they're adults to continue to, you know, support them in their professional development, as well as give them avenues to give back and have the full circle, you know, come full circle. So without further ado, I am going to hand it over to Lulu, and she's going to give you, you know, some high-level program highlights on all the work that we're doing, and then she's going to dive deeper into our reproductive health access initiatives. So over to you, Lulu.
Thank you, Jillian. I'm going to take a deep dive in some of our programs. So AYC has a very unique approach to learning and leadership development. We are currently serving over 750 children, youth, and women who access programs 3 to 5 times a week. So the slide that you're looking at now has different icons around each picture. That is to show you how many programs that we are currently running at the Youth Center that speak to our holistic approach. So I'm just going to mention a few here, and as I present, I'll talk more about some of them. So we have a special education program that is currently working with 21 girls and boys. We offer programs in professional development, career guidance. We have a special curriculum for high school graduates, which is a college prep program. I think Gideon touched a bit on that. We have sign language for classes, and we have a reproductive health program that I'm very excited to talk about today. Next slide. Thank you. So under our academic support and education access, AYC offers tutoring sessions for young learners from 1st grade up to 12th grade. So in 2022, we recorded 86% of our 12th graders who passed the national exam compared to the 69.3% at national level. And this speaks to our one-on-one session, our group tutoring programs that help the learners with their schoolwork, assignments, and reports that they have to submit for school. So we have a total of 115 college and university graduates to date. Currently, we have 50 college and university students that are in college and universities around Zambia. And we have 56 in our college prep program. So these are high school graduates that have completed their high school, which is grade 12 here in Zambia. This is a specially designed curriculum to help them with their college and university life, which I, for one, wish I had back in my day, because it preps them for how to research on papers, how do you handle mental health and wellness whilst in school, how do you handle budgeting, how do you write your report, how do you navigate relationships around university. So we have great dialogues in these sessions. Thank you. Next slide. So I'm excited to share that we have a special education program called Read for Rose Special Education Program, working with 21 girls and boys with disabilities. And they have an individual learning plan which is according to the child's capabilities and strengths. Each child has a tablet to enhance specialized learning, and we also have a special sign language class for the parents to better communicate with children who are hearing impaired. So one thing I love about the sign language classes with the parents is that it's also a great platform for them to form a support group and for them to have a shoulder to lean on and a hand to hold as they face different challenges when raising a child with special needs. So it's also very interesting to see the kids, some of the kids who have hearing impairment, finally getting that opportunity to communicate with their parents, or to see students with mobility impairment being more independent and thriving in their own capabilities and strengths. So the students at our special education hub have access to communication skills, academic support sessions. They have life skill sessions. At the back of our center, we have a small garden, and each learner has a special time slot where they can go to our garden, and grow the vegetables, which we use for the feeding program at the center. So it's very encouraging to see them just tap into their strength and become more independent, and just incredible youth and young leaders. Thank you so much. Next slide. So AYC runs a nutrition and food security program. We have a feeding program that is currently serving over 250 meals daily. That is Monday to Friday. So these meals are more than just porridge. They include a protein, a vegetable, and a starch to increase nutrition. So this is one of the program that actually attracts a lot of numbers, because we are operating in the heart of a community that is facing a lot of unemployment cases, and most of the families that we save cannot afford meals in a day. So kids having access to these meals is of great support to their livelihood. Next slide, please. So I'll share about our entrepreneurship and financial literacy program. So as a global catalyst partner of the Street Business School, we train mothers and guardians doing a 4-month women's business training. So in addition to this, we have a program for the children and youth to gain knowledge and skills and resources about starting a new business, along with other financial literacy skills to enable them become more sustainable leaders in community. So we have graduated a total of 140 mothers in our program, so that equates to 5 cohorts, and one cohort reported a 264% increase in income after a 4-month program. So it's encouraging for the staff and also the community to have these programs, because we are working together with the family to break cycles of generational poverty. And the women have been observed to be a strong pillar of the family, and a pillar that is going to pull an entire family out of poverty. So we have observed the women come together, in these training sessions, and also use this as a platform to talk about social issues, to exchange knowledge and expertise on different business ideas, and also lend a listening ear to each other. So our facilitators who facilitate these sessions have learned a lot also from the mothers. So it's very interesting to see how knowledge exchange is very impactful for program adaptation. Thank you. Next slide.
Sorry, I'm going backwards here. Hold on. Sorry about that. What is going on? There we go. All right, everyone, we're back.
All right. So leadership development has always been a key component of our work, and it's woven throughout all our programs. Every aspect of our program has a touch of leadership development, whether it's academic support or extracurricular activities. We always are very intentional about putting a component on leadership development. And to speak to that, we hold an annual leadership and life skill camp held in August for 100 children and youth to build a strong leadership skill base. We just completed and finished our annual camp last week, Friday, which was very exciting. This camp, we incorporated a sign language class. So all the campers got to learn sign language, and some of them were able to communicate with students from our special education program. And it was very interesting to see them learning a new language. And the students from our special education program had an exciting time seeing how other people find it hard to learn and understand their language. So it was a great exchange of knowledge there. So we also promote weekly leadership and community service program that promotes regular skill development and service. It's also a great way to work with our young leaders and open a world of community service, and to also empower them to know that they also have a part to play in the community, and age does not matter. We believe that leadership starts at a very young age. Next slide. So I'm going to put in Julian just for a few minutes as she gives a brief introduction to our Reproductive Health Access Initiative, and I'll be right back. Julian?
Thank you, Lulu. So before we dive in on the initiative itself, just to give a little more background about what's going on in Zambia and the limited access that women have to reproductive health. Only 10% of young women, age 15 to 19, use modern contraceptives, due to lack of access and education. And remember, we have that 30% pregnancy rate nationwide in Zambia. And then an area like ours, Kafue, which is peri-urban, we have a 15 to 20% early pregnancy rate. Only 50% of young women in Zambia are knowledgeable about HIV prevention. This is leading to an imbalance actually in the rate of HIV. So nearly 15% of females are HIV positive compared to only about 9% of males. So this is kind of just a look at what's going on in Zambia. And so for us, reproductive health started very early at the center, and menstrual health started very early at the center. In 2007, we started distributing disposable pads and condoms. The pads we always knew was sort of a Band-Aid, short-term fix, and obviously has its impacts on the environment. So, but we figured it was better than nothing, right? That at least the girls would not be missing school. And then very early on, we saw the need to be distributing condoms so that we could have less pregnancy rates among the young women coming to the center. And in parallel, we also started informally introducing reproductive health programming, information awareness. So that would go on regularly at the center, but it wasn't really a formal program yet. And so nearly, building on about 15 years of that work, we officially launched our Reproductive Health Access Initiative in 2022 to really focus in on the lack of information about access to family planning and modern contraception, HIV and STD prevention, as well as looking at gender discrimination and cultural and social taboos that were preventing women and girls from accessing the care that they have right to, as well as, exercising their reproductive health rights. So we found that by we want to equip the girls and women with the most modern tools so that they are full and information, right? So that they're fully empowered to participate fully in their education and their public life and achieve their full potential. So today, the Reproductive Health Access Initiative has several pillars, which I'm going to hand it back over to Lulu.
Thank you, Julianne. So just talk about our work in ending period poverty. So through our partnerships with SORT and Pixie Cup, we are distributing, usable menstrual cups and period underwear to girls and women at our Learning and Leadership Center so that they can take full advantage of their academic and professional opportunities. So girls who are at our Read for Rose Special Education Hub also have access to this program. Next slide, please. Thank you. So through our work in the community and with working with the girls on our program, we learned previously that it is very important and vital to include different stakeholders in the community. So we believe that community members are best positioned to create sustainable change. So we are working with family members in the community to start a dialogue to shift perspective on menstrual health, contraception, and reproductive sexual rights. So the picture that you're seeing on the slide is a group of the mothers on the program, and this was after usable cap distribution. From the dialogue with the girls, we observed that it was very important to include their mother in the discussion. So for any uptake of a product or information, it's very important to reach out to other members of the family that have a great, a power hold or over the girl, so as to increase uptake of the product and also to spread more awareness. So all the mothers that we engaged with in this distribution reported that this was the first time they were seeing the cup. So before that, when the girl took the cup home, the mothers were shocked. They, okay, what is this? So then that was a great learning opportunity for us to say, hey, let's talk to the mothers about the products that the center is distributing, what are the benefits, what are the long-term benefits of the products. And also it was an opportunity for us to give information on more environmental safe products and sustainable products to enable that our girls have readily available products when they need them, for them to fully engage in either school activities or participate in any other activities. Next slide. So increasing access and opinions for our girls, we have collaborated with local partners like Pride Community Health Organization, and we are unlocking access to inclusive, judgment-free reproductive health consultations, pregnancy and HIV testing, contraception, and educational materials. Partnering with local organization has been very helpful to us because we get to exchange knowledge, we get to learn from them, they get to learn from us, and our youth and children also have access to other services that are operating locally. Next slide. So promoting peer-to-peer education to amplify the impact of the reproductive health access program, the Learning and Leadership Center partners with an organization called Gold Youth Development Agency to train our youth as peer educators so that they can teach their fellow students about reproductive health, contraception, teenage pregnancy, HIV prevention, and self-esteem, and further drive community-led change. So from our experience in working in the community, we have observed that peer-to-peer interaction increases engagement, participation, and uptake of any information or service that you are implementing in the community. The kids are more open to relate to a peer than they would relate to someone who's older than them. Because in our culture setting, anyone who's older than you is seen as, in parental role or in the parental view. So you would say, okay, but if an older person who is the same age as my mother is talking about, contraception. Is she judging me or is she preaching to me? But when it's peer-to-peer, it's more relatable. And the dialogues and the sessions are very insightful and very eye-opening. Next slide, please. So creating girl agencies, guided by our belief that access to modern menstrual health, knowledge, and supplies changes lives. We distribute reusable cups, pads, and period underwear and empower girls at our Learning Leadership Center to choose what best works for them. So from our research and monitoring, we observe that some of our products are not user-friendly for all girls. So when you're looking at menstrual hygiene products, you also have to be sensitive to the capability of the girl. And to this, I mean, if a girl has disabilities, is the product that you're giving to her user-friendly to her? Can she use it effectively? Is it easily accessible to her? So this has been a great learning experience for us to explore which product is suitable for which girl. And the girls feel more empowered when they have options for them to pick what works best for them. So the girls having their products and having the information spills to them fully participating in education activities and them having a free life. I think we can all agree with the fact that when you have the products and the information, you are free and you feel more empowered. And any challenges around menstrual hygiene don't feel like a mountain, which every month feels like a mountain. Next slide. The boy has not been left behind, in case you're wondering, like, okay, are we only talking about girls? The boy has not been left behind, recognizing that boys, girls, women, and men can all participate in community-led change. The Boys Talk Club meets weekly at our leadership and learning center to educate boys about gender equity, reproduction, menstrual health, and how they can empower girls and women. I would also love to highlight that these sessions are not only centered around health and wellness or gender equity. These sessions are also a platform for the boys to meet together and to talk about mental health issues, and for them to talk about different challenges that they face as a boy child, and also the stigma that comes with being a boy child. And some of it, which is, a boy is meant to be strong, you're not supposed to break down, or you don't have to show your emotion. So these dialogues are exclusively for boys. I was kicked out of them, happily left, but it's a great opportunity for them to meet as boys. We also have great mentors in this program who have been in the program, who are alumni of the program, who understand some of the challenges that the boy faces in our community. So this is a great platform for boys to come together. Next slide. So in addition to regular monitoring and evaluation across the center, we actively seek opportunities to assess, learn, and then adapt our reproductive health access initiative program to increase impact. So we recently closed out USAID Youth Excel Research to Change grants to formulate and test community-driven solutions for changing the cultural and social taboos surrounding the menstrual health and hygiene. So from this project and assessment, we learned that there are still barriers in mother-to-daughter communication on reproductive and menstrual health, as well as the challenges that girls face in schools, which include lacking proper hygiene facilities. So this was a great opportunity for AYC to meet with different stakeholders in the community, like school administrators. We met with the parents and had great dialogue and conversations and interviews with them. And we also got to learn about existing barriers, and we got to spread awareness about the products that we are distributing in our program. And all these really informed to our adaptation of the reproductive health program. Next slide. So as I close, I'm going to quickly share some of our impacts from our reproductive health access. So AYC has maintained under 2% of young women at the center who become pregnant, compared to between 15 and 20% locally. We have distributed over 500 menstrual cups and 486 packs of usable pads. 91.7% of girls and women in the reproductive health program have reported to feel more comfortable managing their periods at home. I think some ladies listening in can agree to that. And we have 89% of young women at the center who receive the usable pads report using them every period. And we have a report from the girls who have access to our program who stated they have a higher level of well-being than non-participants who are less likely to be absent from school due to lack of menstrual products. So I'm going to just close by saying hashtag free menstrual products for girls to enable them engage in activities and participate in school, and overall improve educational outcomes for all girls, both in peri-urban areas and rural areas. Next slide, Gillian. Zikomo, as we say here, or thank you. AYC is open to learning and adapting our work, and we are open to more support and engagement from people around the world. If you would like to know and learn more about our work and learn how to support or how to donate and just learn from us, please visit our website at www.africaneducationprogram.org. It has been an honor to present our work, and I'm going to hand it over to Hannah for our Q&A session. Thank you so much. Thank you for the heart.
Yes, you're getting so many hearts and little clap emojis.
Thank you.
Everybody really enjoyed the presentation. And yeah, I'm just always so impressed with and inspired by our partners. You guys do such important work, and it's so great to get to have you come on here and to speak about and elaborate on your various programs. You're making such a huge impact, and we can see by all of the accolades that you're getting in the chat, just the amazing work that you're doing. So congratulations, great job. Before we get into the questions here. We have a few pre-submitted questions, and then there were questions that were also submitted during the presentation. So I'm just going to kind of go through them. Feel free, Julie or Lulu or Pamela, whoever wants to answer, the floor is open. I'm just going to start by looking into some of the pre-submitted questions. And the first one just asks really generally, obviously we're a population organization, and what you're doing is in terms of programs and its effect really has an impact on the amount of people who will be on the planet into the future and in coming years. The African continent, as we all know, encompasses the world region in which most of the world's population growth will occur into the next 50 and 100 years. So the question here asks, how does the youth that you're working with actually see and envision the globe's increasing population and its impact environmentally, socially, and otherwise? And what would the youth, what do they think would help mitigate this increase if they think it's problematic in the first place?
Thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Lulu. I was going to say, I think Lulu's going to start.
Yeah, I will start, and Julian will chime in, if that's okay. So thank you for this question. This was a very thought-provoking question. And I would say it's very interesting to learn how different communities look at increasing population. So in our cultural context, we value big families, and we value reproduction. So increasing the number is actually a plus in our culture, because from time immemorial, we have believed the more, the better. So for a long period of time, that has been the norm. However, we have recently seen a shift on the delay to reproduce and increase, because more girls and young boys are being empowered and prioritizing their careers first. However, I was tempted to take this question back to a conservation club and spark some conversation around what do they think could help mitigate the increase. So I would love to do either a project or on this question in the near future. So Julian, do you wanna chime in now?
Well, and we'll be happy to report back to see what the solutions,
we would be,
they come up with. Just to add on to what Lulu's saying, I think what's interesting is the youth are not necessarily associating, this cultural and social positivity around big families to what they're seeing on the economic side of what's going on in Zambia. So when we started working in Zambia, it only had a population of 12 million people. And today it has 20 million people. So just in the span of us doing work, right, Zambia almost doubled in population. Every year between now and 2030, 375 youth will enter the workforce every single year, and then that doubles in 2030. And the youth are seeing the lack of jobs. They're seeing the lack of opportunities that are there for them to have economic upward mobility, but they're not necessarily tying, right? They're valuing the big families and they're valuing reproduction, yet they know there's a major challenge up ahead with them trying to get jobs or stimulate the economy. So I think that's why this is a part of what we do at the center, is we're going to kick this question back to the youth and get them thinking about it. This is the type of critical thinking projects that we'd love to do. So thank you to whoever asked this question, because you're setting us up for a great project.
Yeah, that's a great answer, and we'll be looking forward to seeing how this question is answered by the youth there. I think it's really interesting to kind of explore this, because it's very, as you said, geographically and socially specific. And I think with that, whenever we're talking about, slowing population growth through the expansion of rights, we can pinpoint one major precursor to faster population growth and inequality, and that is poverty, right? Another question here is kind of asking about that, saying that most often underserved communities do not have the ability or resources to pull themselves out of poverty. What are the primary triggers that community and civic leaders can use to facilitate this transition out of poverty? And I know this is a big question as well, and you guys are working in a really holistic and multifaceted way to approach this very complicated and deep issue. But are there certain things that you can pinpoint within your work in communities throughout Zambia and even the broader region that could help us kind of better understand the scope and severity of this issue? Or what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, well, I'll start, and then Lulu will finish. But Hannah, you started on the part that I want to talk about is that word trigger, right? Because trigger makes it seem like there's somehow these silver bullets, right? Or there's these overnight solutions that we can use so that we can have this community-led change out of poverty. And what we have found is that it takes a lot of time, patience, dedication, commitment, and patient resource, right? To be able to empower community leaders to then be able to drive their own transformation. And so instead of thinking of them as triggers, right, let's actually focus on the long-term commitment that it takes for a community to uplift itself in a way that it does actually create systemic change, true change, right? True transformation. But to your point, yes, there are things that we can be doing that start to plant the seeds of that type of transformation. So I'm going to hand it over to Lulu, and before Lulu jumps in, what we really believe in is that holistic approach. If you only plant one seed, you're not going to get to that point of transformation. It really takes multifaceted, long-term commitment. But yeah, Lulu, tell us a couple of things that do work.
From our experience in working with communities, we have noticed that engagement with the community has a very big impact on leading to that sustainable development and that transition out of poverty. So I think we touched on our entrepreneurship program with the women. I would love to share that program was birthed from our one-on-one home visit to each participant and each member of our program. So from the survey and interviews that we conducted, we noticed that most of their homes were female-led and headed. So then that sparked a conversation on us launching a program to empower the family and empower the woman in the family who was observed to be that pillar in that home. So I would say engagement and inclusion of program before implementation. So bringing different stakeholders in a community in that dialogue. Our program is very specific to work with children over a long period of time. And we have also seen that also brings a shift on perspective and also starts breaking down the different generational narratives that have made people to continue existing in circles of poverty. So when you work together with a child until they become a young youth or young leader, they are exposed to different information that will enable them break those circles of poverty, which in turn they will spread to their family, then to a community. So I would say inclusion. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. That's a really great answer, and I think it highlights the very complex nature of poverty alleviation and community development. And it's really nice to see organizations like yours that are going in and from very early ages working with populations, making sure there's inclusion, making sure that there's equality across the board, and opening up real access to opportunities for people. I think that's really amazing. So the African Education Program, as I understand it, is now 20 years old. So first, I'd like to say congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment. I'm just curious to know how things have changed for you guys over the past 20 years. What do you see in terms of improvements? What do you see in terms of challenges? What gives you hope? And yeah, what do you think are the biggest obstacles? There's questions here asking about the major obstacles to uptake in reproductive health, to toppling cultural barriers, but then just as an organization overall, I'm interested to know what you think your biggest opportunities and challenges are as we kind of, move forward into the future here.
Wow, that's a big question. Lulu, do you want to go first? Should I go first?
You can start.
Thanks, as someone who was there 20 years ago.
With big hair?
Yeah, with big hair, right? I think one of the challenges that I think any organization faces, from start until you have that great endowment that just fuels you, is forever resource, right? How do you day to day, have the money to be able to do this work? And I'd like to thank groups like Population Connection for giving unrestricted support, for example, that just, instead of having to focus on, okay, these dollars can only go to this or this or this, just believing in what we do, believing in the holistic nature of our work, knowing that reproductive health access is a very important piece, right? but not saying this can only be spent on that, right? Knowing that this interwoven nature is what actually is driving the transformation that we're looking for. So at the same time, I would say the fact that we have to struggle, you know, to survive almost is what creates a really big opportunity in terms of looking at how do we become sustainable, right? Because not everyone gets to have that big endowment or that Mackenzie Scott grant, although we're going to get that Mackenzie Scott grant, I know we will. You know, so how do we become less donor dependent in today's day and age, which, you know, for us, we're looking at climate resilient agriculture, for example, as an income generator, so that we're generating income as opposed to you know, depending on donors and on grant makers. So that is forever a challenge, you know, that's there until it's not. I think a really interesting challenge is one that Lulu was alluding to. So when we started our work, you know, we opened the center in 2006. HIV/AIDS was still, you know, ravaging the country. And what we found was at that time, a lot of women-headed households or even child-headed households, right? It was grandmas and children who were in charge of these homes. And so we were tackling issues through that lens. And then what was interesting is there was a generational shift where we went back to actually having nuclear families. Of course, there was always big families, right? And cousins or nephews and nieces living in our homes. But we went back to a man and a woman, you know, being in charge of the household. And then it's again, recently, there's been this other shift, and I think that Lulu can confirm, but the pandemic really aggravated it, where men aren't dying anymore. It's not that they're no longer on the face of the earth, but they're not committing to their families, right? So when things get hard, they just leave. And they get remarried again or whatever it may be. And so we're back to a very high percentage of our families being female headed, right? These moms that are the stronghold of our community. So that's an example where we've seen these shifts and they present different challenges for our work and the children and the youth that we work with, but also create those opportunities, right? It was that understanding of what our households now look like that women's business training came up, and that's been one of our most, you know, high impact programs since it started. So yeah, you know, those are the challenges, or two of the challenges, or two of the things that have changed. I'm gonna let Lulu chime in, so that's not just me.
I wanted to speak to some of the highlights. We touched a bit on them. I think, you know, we have, over the years, we have learned so much, and we have been placed, you know, in an opportunity to be able to give very insightful feedback about community-led organizations. There have been a lot of ups and downs, and in both moments, we have learned a lot. One great highlight for me is being able to work with the alumni of the program. So these are youth that I've known for over 8 years. And when I met some of them that I'm working with right now, they were in like 9th grade. There's one who I met her when she was in 9th grade, and I was her spelling bee teacher. I was her counselor, and right now she's working alongside me. You know, so to me, that's one of the achievements. So when we give our numbers, sometimes people would say, well, you know, you haven't hit that million. But when I look at the impact and the hours that we spend with these youth leaders who were once youth and children, but now they are my colleagues. They are people that I consider my peers. And they are also people who are innovative and creative and are bringing so much to the table because they have been in the community. They understand some of the challenges that they face, and they're able to just come up with innovative and creative ways on us to face some of the challenges that we have, that we face on a day-to-day basis with working with community-led organizations. So for me, that's like one of the biggest highlights. And also working with students that do not have access to special education, which has been a very big challenge in my community. So seeing them access academic support, and them being more independent, it makes the challenges less painful and a few less gray hairs, but Yeah, we are all developing some gray hairs, right, Jay?
Yeah, that's why I shaved mine all off.
Thank you for that wonderful
Yeah,
question, Hannah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the wonderful answer. Just kind of connected to that, there's just some questions wondering and asking a little bit more just about the actual sources of your funding. Obviously, we are partnering with you now, which is amazing. So there's a question actually asking like how our partnership with you has supported your work specifically. Does the support, for example, go towards a specific program or just overall? How is it helping? She'd love also to know what kind of difference Population Connections support has made in their ability to expand your services or the number of people served. And she also made a note saying that your work is very heartwarming and inspiring. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And, you know, as I mentioned before, we're so grateful for groups like Population Connection because of the grant being unrestricted and allowing us to use it the way that, you know, best serves us. Again, our programs are incredibly interwoven, you know, so our reproductive health access initiative, for example, spans into our special education program. It spills over into our college prep program. It even spills over into our young learners program, right? As soon as we feel like girls are old enough to access certain information, we're doing that. So the fact that our programs are so multifaceted and so interwoven, again, it's an unrestricted grant like this that allows us to just purely focus on the work as opposed to having to spend time and energy counting the money that went here and there, or there, or there. And that's why we're so grateful. So, you know, but to the question about reproductive health access initiative, you know, for us this year, it hasn't been necessarily about increasing the number of girls in the program. It's been about this learning so that we can adapt the program to do better, right? It's been about working with the moms, working with the community, better understanding what's going on, and then adapting. The fact that we have this decade-long investment in a child, you know, our numbers at the center, we're never looking to drastically increase them, right? We're not going to go from 750 to 10,000. That's not the goal. The goal is how do we better make our programs so that these kids that are with us for 10 or 15 years truly have had all the doors open for them, so they're dreaming big, they're reaching their full potential, and then they're circling back and uplifting their community. So, you know, support from Population Connection, it wasn't really about increased numbers necessarily or increased numbers of cups or period underwear distributed. It was about how do we look at the program this year and make it better and adapt it and go deeper, so that the girls who are in the program, you know, that are accessing our whole holistic programming, including reproductive health access, are getting every, you know what I mean, that's more impactful for them. It's enhanced for them. So I hope that answered the question. Lulu, do you have anything to add?
I think you touched on what I wanted to say, and how a restricted grant gives children access to a variety of programs that are generally spilled to them, you know, having the most free and thriving life. So I think you touched to that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. And I'm sorry, just to add also, like, for example, boys too, right? It's all about what the boys are accessing also in terms of information and how they view the girls as partners. So just adding again to like this whole interwoven nature, right? Sorry, go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much. It's a perfect answer, and it's a perfect, I think, point to end on. So thank you so much for, again, coming and giving such an amazing and interesting presentation. Again, it's such a pleasure to get to work with organizations like the African Education Program, and to get to hear a little bit more about your work personally. So thank you very much. We've got a lot of people who have asked a lot of questions in the chat that we didn't get to. So we will be following up via email. with answers to those. And yeah, stay tuned. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Happy International Youth Day, everyone, too. Thank you.